Our friends are an integral part of our personal support systems. There's a saying that goes, our friends are the family we choose. But in today's world, our friendships getting even harder to make and maintain. We're diving into that this episode, and if you'd like more friends, or perhaps just closer friends, we have some tips on how to do just that.
Welcome to the Gen XZ Exchange. I'm Chris Perkins, Gen X parent, now 50-something empty nester.
And I'm Lily Perkins, Gen Z career explorer. We swap insights on career choices, work, and life in general.
So whether you're a Gen X parent trying to figure out midlife's challenges,
or a Gen Z young professional or student figuring out adulthood, you're in the right place.
All right, so here we are for another episode, and this is a bit of a milestone for us because it's episode 10.
Yay!
So well done us for getting to double figures.
High five.
So if you've been a listener that's been with us since the early episodes, thank you. And thank you for sticking with it. If you're a new listener, welcome to the show and tell more people about it. And hopefully we'll get to 20 episodes and 50 episodes, and then we'll see where we go.
And if you've been here from the start, you get to say you're an OG and
Absolutely.
You get major creds, street creds. So, yeah.
When we're proper famous, you can say you were there at the beginning. So thank you to everyone for listening.
For real.
Why don't we start with best friends?
Yay.
Who's yours, Lily? I think I know, but you just confirm who's your best friend and why.
Well, I have a few best friends, and I'm really lucky that we've all been friends for years and years. So one of my best friends, Lucy, who is actually probably our number one fan for the podcast. So she'll be hearing this, I hope. Me and Lucy have known each other since primary school. And then also my besties, Jade and Kyle, I've known since primary school. And then Lucy went to another high school, but obviously we still kept in touch, and then moved to Glasgow for uni, and we still see each other and are still very close. And then Jade and Kyle I went to high school with, and then we met Gio and Louise, and obviously Amy as well. We went to primary school with, but she was in another class, and we didn't really cross paths in primary school. But then randomly when we started high school, I was like, oh wait, this Amy girl's kind of cool. So then there's a little group of the sixth of us in school, and we all kind of packed up our bags and moved off to uni together. So we're all in the same city. Even if I don't see them super often, I feel like it's those relationships where it doesn't matter how long it's been, you just always feel like you just jump right back into conversation where you left off. So really, really lovely. And yeah, who are your best friends, would you say, Dad?
Well, my best friend is Mike, known to his friends as Mikey. We met at high school, and he's a fantastic friend. And as you said, he lives in the States now, has lived there for probably close to 20 years. So I really don't see him very often. He came back earlier this year, so it was great for a bunch of us from school to get together. He was the best man at our wedding. It was just one of those friendships where we clicked. I don't think he would mind me saying he's a bit odd. And that was kind of part of the attraction.
Well, so are you, exactly.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. So, yeah, we clicked. He has actually been best man to two of my other pals. And probably my only regret in our friendship is that I wasn't able to be best man for him because he got married in the States. It was a really small service. So we weren't able to go out there. But we all celebrated when he and Celeste came back to the UK.
Aww.
But yeah, has been a friend since I was 13 years old. And it's just one of those people you can pick up with right where you left off, however long the gap is between us. And sometimes it's quite long, and that's more my fault than his.
Yeah, but it's nice. What would you say? I know what I would kind of say, like why I'm best friends with my best friends, and like why we have the relationship that we do. And it's probably the same for you, because I just think, especially if it's someone you've been friends with for ages and you've like built up all these memories, you have like a crazy bunch of inside jokes from like years worth of stories, and being able to like talk to them about anything, someone you can like be vulnerable with and stuff too. Like, would you say that's kind of same for your friendships, even though we're in different demographics?
Absolutely. I think your best friendships are the people you can completely be yourself with.
Yeah.
And obviously, as the friendship builds over time, they get to know you, the good things and the bad things. They'll be there for you with whatever you've got going on. They are the people you can sometimes be even more yourself with than members of your family. Yeah. So you just feel sort of totally comfortable.
Just be yourself and not be afraid of any kind of judgment or anything. So,
which is a nice lead into defining friendship. That would be a good place for us to start. So I looked at some dictionary definitions. The Oxford English Dictionary says a friend is a person with whom one has developed a close and informal relationship of mutual trust and intimacy. The Cambridge Dictionary is a bit more colloquial, and it just says a person who you know well and who you like a lot. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary from the US says a person who has a strong liking for and trust in another.
Nice.
And Google defines a friend as a person with whom one has a bond of mutual affection. So I think the theme that comes across there for me is kind of trust. And, the mutual affection is nice. Someone you like a lot, all of those things. Kind of
someone you like a lot.
Friendship.
Yeah, I like that one. Just keep
nice
it simple.
Yeah.
Like the intimacy bit as well. Like the fact that it's someone that you can like cry with, ugly laugh with, ugly get drunk with, like all these kind of things as well. Like that's a form of intimacy when you've seen each other at your absolute lowest and your absolute best. So that's big theme that was coming through.
And share your sort of intimate thoughts with your fears, your secrets. It's someone you can confide in. It goes back to that trust thing, the person you maybe wouldn't tell anyone else certain things, you can tell your best friend. Yeah. So here's an interesting question for you, Lily.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you can be friends with someone you've never met in real life?
Yeah, I would say so. I think there'll be plenty of people who have made a friend online, might never meet them, and then it's fine because if you get along well online, it doesn't really matter. And then if you do meet and there is that kind of friendship spark there. So yeah, I think probably it just kind of depends on who's involved and whether the vibe can be carried from like the fun they have online to in real life. Yeah. Really depends.
Do you have any online friends, people that you've not met in real life?
No, but I know like one of my friends met a friend online, but they did end up meeting in real life and got along amazingly, and like I've met her as well and she's lovely. So I think it makes sense, like if you're in an internet space where for fandoms, for example, or for gaming, like if you have a lot in common, it makes sense that you would probably get along in real life. Like those kinds of communities usually do share similar senses of humor and things like that. And I guess with like gaming as well, like you might not have met someone, but if you have like a headset on and you are essentially like on what might be considered a 2-hour long phone call with someone, just with like the gaming involved, I feel like you get to know someone really well.
Yeah, I think I have some online friends, I think, people that I have never met. So I work remotely. The team I'm part of is dotted all around the world. I would say I have some work friends. I've got to know them pretty well in the 5 years I've been with the company I work for now. I think I have other people I would classify as friends through things like LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Where you build a relationship, even though we've never met. I think the one thing they all have in common is that I feel I've been through some kind of experience with them, whether that's, you've got together to get through like tough work projects or online, you've helped each other out with things. There's some shared experience there in addition to kind of shared interests. But I don't think you necessarily have to meet the person in real life. You can have those kind of remote friendships.
Yeah,
where
it's
you're
the
not
21st
necessarily
century.
Emotionally remote from them. Yeah, it's the 21st century. And
we have FaceTime, we have Zoom. Yeah. I feel like it's not like you need to meet up with someone in real life to prove like, we're friends because we are in the same room together. Like, I feel like that's probably quite a dated viewpoint. So we're on the same page.
One of the challenges with that is where maybe superficial online connections are replacing that intimacy that you have in a friendship. And I know, there are people who have a lot of connections online perhaps, but they're not necessarily friendship. And there's this idea of loneliness limbo where you can have a lot of contact with people online, but you don't have friends. And with young people in particular, there was a piece of research I found from Ipsos in the UK that said over a third of 16 to 34-year-olds in Britain feel lonely at least once a week, despite 75% of them saying they have many friends. I think there is a bit of a disconnection. That probably was exacerbated by the pandemic and we haven't really recovered from it.
No, definitely. But that's crazy, like a third. But I guess it's one thing having like loads of online friends, but if you're going about day to day and you're doing things on your own, that kind of would make you feel quite isolated. So I can understand that. It's probably about having a bit of a balance. Like, there's nothing wrong with having online friends, but nurturing the friendships and relationships you have in real life so that you have people to like actually be present with, like physically. That's probably the best way to go about it, in my opinion.
I think your friendships or the nature of your friendships changes as you get older.
Yeah.
So why don't we do a quick tour of kind of what friendship is like from childhood up?
Yeah, let's do that.
Do you remember your earliest friendships? You talked about a couple of people you were at primary school with that you're still friends with.
I remember there being one girl in nursery who was like my best friend in nursery, like, but I only remember her because you guys have like mentioned her to me.
Ilana Noonan.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't like name drop her. She's gonna be like, what the hell?
Ilana, if you're out there, Lily is here. Get in touch.
No, that's so funny. I remember you guys telling me that she was like my bestie, and then I don't know, she went to another primary school.
I don't know if we told you she
no,
was your,
like, you know what I mean? No,
bestie.
like you've said, like, oh, you always wanted to hang out with her and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming she went to another primary school or something. And
they moved to a different part of the country, and we went down to see them once, but then lost touch.
So that fizzled out, sadly. But yeah, primary school. I remember my primary school friendships pretty well. And that's just, I think a lot of the way you make friends in primary school is like on the playground. And it's funny what you were saying about Mike. The reason why you were maybe drawn to him as a friend is because he was a bit strange. Because I feel very strongly the same way about Jade and Kyle. All of us in primary school were little like nerdy, like kind of freaks, like running around the playground pretending to be in the Hunger Games or like picking up sticks and having like lightsaber battles or something. So I feel like we were a bit weird. I think when you're a kid, it's just someone who will play with you, like play whatever silly games you're into.
Yeah. One thing you might remember in terms of making friends with people when you were at primary school.
Yeah.
Do you remember me saying to you, and then I said to Charlie, the best way to make a friend is to be a friend?
Yeah, and that's a really solid bit of advice because I think in primary school, you make most of your friendships by like offering someone a bit of your packed lunch or like getting the teacher for them if they fall over, like things like that. And I think it's like the little acts of kindness.
Yeah. Or if it's the new kid in class that, starts part way through, to show them round, to introduce them to your friends. I think that is, I didn't invent that. I can't remember who said it. It's an expression from a long time ago, but if you act as a friend to someone, the chances are they're going to want to reciprocate, and before you know it, you've got a friendship there. Yeah. And what about Lucy? How did you and Lucy become friends?
I think me and Lucy, we were really good friends all through primary school. I remember us like, especially towards the end of primary school, she's just so funny. I just remember she was never afraid to like make herself look like a bit of a tit to get a laugh. So I feel like I quite like that about her, and I just remember her being so funny and fun to be around. Again, being silly as a child and someone that you can like have a laugh with and run around the playground and scuff your knees and stuff.
Absolutely.
So then for your memories of your earliest friendships, were they kind of similar, like primary school, you would say?
My earliest memories of friendships were probably at primary school.
Yeah.
And I think it was that point where you would go round to a friend's house for tea.
Mm-hmm.
I think very early childhood at nursery, you would have play dates with your friends.
Yeah.
But your parent, usually your mum, would be with you. I think it was at school when you started going around to other people's houses on your own.
Unsupervised. Yeah, that was a big deal.
And you would see someone else's family life.
Yeah.
And if it was different to yours, it always seemed better.
So cool. Yeah.
And I have a very vivid memory of being round at Cameron Goldie's house. And I must have been 7 or 8 maybe. Cameron Goldie's mum let us drink Coke out of the can. And that was just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, I can imagine with grandma and table manners, you would have went absolutely mental at that. That's funny.
She would have, but she wasn't
No,
there.
you would have been so buzzing about the fact that you got to drink out of a can. I just find that
Yeah,
very,
I still remember that now.
that's obviously like a core memory for you. That's how much it blew your socks off. Love that.
Yeah. But it was just this idea that you would just see another family
Doing their thing.
kind of living their regular life, but it was different, and it was just sort of fascinating.
I wonder
really
what you guys did when my friends came round that everyone thought was really cool. Probably, well, maybe in high school, like if we were able to have like a cocktail, that was probably like, no way.
Well, that would have been sort of teenage years.
That's still quite cool though, I think. But then in primary school, I wonder what it would have been. What did you guys do?
Know. Ask them.
Yeah, I should actually.
Ask them what are their early memories of coming around to
people
your
leave a
house.
comment about whatever it was that made you like think your friends' parents were really cool for the way that they ran their house. I'm curious.
Now, I think obviously we have a gender difference here in terms of me being a man and having been a boy, you being a woman now, a young girl.
Mm-hmm.
There are gender differences. I think with boys, one of the things that's really interesting is that at a very young age, they form really close friendships early in childhood. And it's often about being part of a gang. And you've got code words and secret dens, and you share secrets really, really tightly knit.
Yeah.
And you will share everything with your best friends. And then this strange thing happens from adolescence where all of that often changes.
Mm-hmm.
And they somehow adopt very stereotypically masculine ways of behaving.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's because they're role modeling adult men.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the intimacy in those friendships, the sharing of secrets and the sharing of emotions just goes.
That's so sad, yeah.
It is. And unfortunately, that kind of becomes the template for
their adult relationships.
Their friendships all the way through adulthood. They've somehow become conditioned that you don't open up to your men friends.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if, certainly that's my generational perspective, I just wondered if you see Gen Z men talking more openly about their emotions with their friends, whether they're men or women.
I think a couple of things. So I remember being like what you've described with everyone being like really tight knit, and it's like there's like an like innocence to the friendship almost. Like there's no, you have that trust and intimacy where you feel like you're not going to be judged. Like I remember the switch from seeing how the boys in my year in primary school would act with each other in like P7 and then going to high school, very quickly kind of switched around because all of a sudden there's like boys are quite mean to each other actually. And I think for a lot of young men who are doing the role modeling adults that they've seen, I don't know where it comes from. It's all the toxic masculinity stuff, but I feel like if you were to act in any way kind of like soft or vulnerable, you would essentially just get slagged for it. And I think it becomes like a learned behavior to just shut off to avoid any kind of backlash or even like bullying. Like my experience in high school, from what I've observed, I think anything that's seen as being adjacent to femininity, which for a lot of young men they think is like being emotional, being open about your feelings and things, they associate that with being feminine, which I think a lot of the time they associate with just being inherently bad. So I think that causes a lot of the whole like being shut off because they're just afraid of being judged for it. I just think it all stems from the whole toxic masculinity thing and the fact that like, you know, the real men don't cry thing, all of that stuff. Whereas with girls, I think as you go through high school, you become even more open with each other because you're experiencing all the joys of high school and it's like you become each other's support.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that's been the case with my female friendships and most female friend groups that I like knew in school and stuff. It definitely still happens with Gen Z, but there's a bit more of a conversation now about men's mental health, obviously. You see a lot of stuff on social media and I'm glad they're having the conversation, but also men need to take it upon themselves to be kinder to each other. Because I think we've had a conversation before where we've spoken about how like for a lot of men, their female partners become like their emotional support. And I think women generally are quite accepting of men not being okay. Like usually we seem to be a little bit more ahead of men in the mental health conversation, maybe. Not saying there's not women who don't discriminate and stuff, but I think for the most part, most women are quite understanding to men's you know emotions and things.
I've worked with a lot of people that have lost their job been laid off, and in a coaching conversation, they will be very open because specifically it is that kind of safe space and safe confidential space.
Yeah.
But one of the things a lot of men that I have coached have talked about is that they don't feel they have anyone else to talk to.
I know, it's really sad.
They're grieving a job loss, and even just dealing with the after effects of that, to be able to say, I'm sad and I don't know what to do, other than maybe a coach in a professional relationship. They don't have anyone that they feel they can share that with, which I think is really sad, because it's important to acknowledge those kind of feelings, whether it's relationship breakup or job loss or something else that's getting you down. It's good to be able to share that with someone.
And there's things that your friends can do and say that your partner might not necessarily be able to. Your partner or your friends might be able to comfort you in different ways. And it's nice to have all of that. But also it puts a lot of pressure then, I think, on female spouses who maybe feel a bit like I'm the only lifeline and support here. So I think that's a lot of pressure as well. So it is good to have outlets other than just your partner, like for your own sake, but then also for your partner's sake. But it is difficult for men, I think, with friendships.
So we've got up to sort of adolescence, early adulthood. Obviously, you guys were brought up on social media. So from a friendship point of view, you've got all of those connections. You can still continue the conversation when you're not together, but it seems very convenience driven. You can choose when you want to respond to a message and check in. It's not about when you get together. What's your take on the impact that has on friendships?
This is a really good point, actually, because I saw a TikTok not too long ago, actually, and I was like, oh, that's pretty eye-opening, because it was talking about how we've lost kind of a sense of community. Like we're essentially becoming bad friends sometimes. It's a lot easier now to be a bit of a flake, like what you were saying about people only want to check in when it's convenient or hang out when it's convenient, rather than being intentional. And the fact that like everything's online, it's made it so that it's less of a big deal to actually meet up in person.
I know what you mean. So when I was growing up, you'd have to arrange to meet, because like if you wanted to see each other at the weekends or something like outside of school. And I think the point you make about being intentional, there's also an element in there about friendships are some elements of being a friend involve being sacrificial.
Yeah.
So if someone says, can you come and help me out with this? Or can you give me a lift to somewhere? You have to sacrifice what you're doing and take the time to go and do that.
Yeah.
And I think there's maybe more of a tendency now for people to say, it's not convenient for me to do that.
I'll FaceTime you later when you're home, though, if you want to catch up, like stuff like that. Whereas you're right, when there wasn't social media, it's like, if we don't make plans, I'm not going to know how your life is going. The girl on TikTok was basically just kind of saying, sometimes you might make plans with someone and it comes to the day and you're like, oh, I'm a bit tired and I can't really be arsed. But actually, sometimes you have to go out of your way and get yourself up out of bed, because it's like you made a commitment with that person, and that's how that trust grows.
Yeah, I think it also does depend on what type of friend they are.
Yeah.
So I don't have an effect for this episode. You know how you said I usually have, like we've had the horns and halo effect and the spotlight effect. I don't have an effect for friendship, but I do have a concept called Dunbar's number.
Okay.
Have you heard of Dunbar's number?
I can't say I have, no.
So Dunbar was an anthropologist who was studying primates, and he recognized there was a correlation between the size of the primate's brain and the number of relationships they could seem to maintain within the pack.
That's so cool.
He extrapolated this back to the human brain and arrived at the number 150 for the number of relationships we can kind of maintain in our social circle. And there are 3 different levels of those relationships, and they tend to go up in kind of multiples of 3. So what he kind of figured out was you have an inner circle, which is usually around 5 people. So this is like close family relationships, your very closest friends, the people you could call at 3 o'clock in the morning if you needed help, and they would come and help you. So they're in your inner circle. So you've got about 5 of them. In the next circle, you have your close friends, and there are probably around 15 of them, so 3 times the 5. So those are the people that you tend to hang out with, your wider social circle. And then the next circle out you have around 45 to 50 people, so sort of 3 times the 15. Those are all your other contacts. So for you, it might be people at work, it might be people at uni, it's your wider social group, but you don't see them regularly. And then beyond that, there are other people you know, like people you might speak to in the coffee shop or at the gym.
Yeah.
But in total, it's always around 150. But you can think about, well, who have I got in my close circle? Who's in that sort of close friend group of about 15 and who's in that bigger group of sort of 45 or 50? Can you relate to that?
I think so. Yeah, if it's like approx 5, I actually probably have a few more than 5 really close friends. So
well, that's good.
Maybe my brain's extra big.
But you might find, if you were to count them up, you might find you had fewer people in the middle circle.
Yeah, so all
or perhaps
evens.
Fewer people in the outer, more superficial circle, but you would probably have about 150 in total, because that's
quite cool. Yeah,
human beings have.
That's cool that he was able to like extrapolate it backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting what you're saying about there being kind of like different circles, different types, which I don't know if it's as common in male friendships as it is with female friendships. There are quite a few different types, and I think you can fall into multiple categories. But do you want me to like run through what we've got? Yeah. So number 1, let's begin with the organizer/planner. So this is your pal who you leave like the holiday booking decisions with, like they take charge of the plans, organizing events, ensuring that everyone actually remembers to hang out. The one to send the text into the group chat and be like, oh my God, we've not seen each other in ages.
Yeah, there's always a sheepdog in every friendship group that rounds people up.
Yep.
The person that does that.
Yeah, very valuable. And then also, I mean, they're all very valuable types, but I feel like also a very valuable type to have in your friend group is the mom/like therapist friend. So this is like, for me, my friend that always has like plasters in her bag, like painkillers on her, antihistamines. She's like basically the caretaker of the group, and she's the one to always remember to send the like, did you get home okay texts. She's really good with birthdays, all that kind of stuff. So someone who's, again, quite organized, but is looking out for people's well-being and is prepared for all the kind of situations that like a mum would be basically with their children. So the next one would be the joker, or maybe like I would even maybe say the prankster or something, like the person who's winding everyone up, using humor to lighten the mood if we're going through a stressful time as a group or something, diffusing conflict, making the group laugh if there's been a bit of an argument or something. And then next we've got the connector, kind of similar to the organizer as well, in that they're a bit of like a social glue type person, so really good at introducing people. I have a thing I saw on TikTok where it's like your friend-in-laws, which are like your friends of friends. So everyone has a friend that's like, oh, I need you to meet so-and-so, like come to this, do this. Making people feel included. Coming off the back of that with making people feel included and good is the listener. Also, again, a bit of an overlap with the therapist, because they're just really great to talk to. You can cry on their shoulder, emotionally intelligent, great at paying attention to details. Just good to have when you need a good yap.
Definitely.
And then the champion, which is basically like your own little personal motivator. So someone who believes in you, stands up for you. You know, if you have like, I don't know, a business idea, if you have like a new hobby you want to pick up, they're cheering you on. Champion, but I prefer cheerleader because I think that's cuter. And then the collaborator, so someone who you maybe have a common interest with. Maybe you met them at like your sports class, or you like the same films. Like it's just really easy to get on with them because of the fact that you share the same hobbies, activities, passions, etc.
Yeah.
And then we have the companion, who is not like what we were talking about with the flakiness with social media. This person's always reliable. They're consistently there for you through any circumstances. They're just reliable, and you know that you can have them there for support when you need them. And then probably also I would chuck in like the party animal. There's always one who takes it too far and basically keeps the mum friend in a job because they need taxis phoned for them and all the rest of it. And then I don't know, maybe like the chill one as well, who's just nice and relaxed and like nice to do chill activities with. So I feel like that's probably all the kind of friend types that you might find in a friend group.
I would say that would be the type of friends you would find in a female friend group.
Yeah.
Hardly any of them exist in a
Yeah.
typical male friend group.
I
I
don't
would
think
say
that.
you maybe have an organizer,
Yeah.
you definitely have a party animal, and then everyone else wants to be the joker.
Yeah. And none of them are.
Those, those are pretty much the only three. So I would say in any typical group of friends, from my perspective,
Yeah.
there isn't the therapist.
No.
There might be someone who's a bit of a connector. There isn't the listener,
No.
the cheerleader, the companion, like it, because I think they will have an emotional component to them.
Yeah, yeah. I know it makes me sad for you because I feel like I could assign multiple people to like each of those types. And it's nice because it's like, I don't know, even like the mum friend one I feel like becomes a bit of a like a joke. Like everyone always jokes about the mum friend, but also we all rely on her so much. And it's just a shame that you just don't have that. So how do male friendships form?
So there's a really interesting piece of research that talks about men's friendships are often based on being side by side.
Right.
So it's a shared activity, like, standing side by side at a football game or at a gig or video games. Like it's kind of doing activities. Whereas women's friendships tend to be more face to face, as in having conversations and looking at each other.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but that's so true.
Yeah. So when it works really well, when men have a shared interest and are doing something side by side, it can be phenomenal. So you might remember an organization that your grandpa, otherwise known as Cheeky Monkey, was involved in, called the Men's Shed.
Yeah, amazing.
He was a founding member of the Men's Shed in Paisley, and it's a phenomenal organization. It's where blokes would go together and mess around with bits of wood and make stuff and fix things. Like, great community organization, but it was blokes side by side fixing things and making things, but that gave them things to talk about.
Yeah.
Whereas women tend to kind of come together and chat more face to face.
Yeah, it's interesting because like if I was like meeting up with one of my girlfriends, like go to the coffee shop, sit opposite each other. I don't know, it's just funny. I feel like being able to do an activity you can have a bit of a chat over is good. So that's why Men's Shed was so good, because I think if you're just sat down next to each other watching the football, you'll maybe be like, oh, that was a good goal. Oh, red card, whatever. But like you're not going to be, if you're paying attention to the football, you're probably not going to be having like a proper conversation, actually kind of building up some intimacy there. So
yeah,
shout out Men's Shed.
And I think there is a pattern in adulthood, particularly later into adulthood, which is pretty well established for men, where your friends from when you were single, drift apart as you maybe get into an established relationship, and your other friends from when you were single move into relationships and might move to different parts of the country. You become more disconnected from them, and men are generally fairly rubbish about keeping in touch with their friends. So then what tends to happen is you are borrowing friendships from your wife or girlfriend. So the husbands or partners of her friends become your friends. And then if you have kids, you tend to have a friendship circle that revolves around the parents of your kids' friends. And we've been really lucky in that we are still friends with the people that were parents of your friends and Charlie's friends at nursery. We've been friends with them for about 20 years.
You're trauma bonded from having like all little shit-aged children at the same time.
Maybe, but those are really strong relationships. We've been through a lot together, but not everyone has that. Sometimes the issue for men is it's just potluck as to whether you have things in common with the men who are the partners of the women's friends. You didn't come together because you both had a common interest.
No.
You just both happen to be attached to people
who
probably do have a common interest and a very close bond, but the men might not.
Yeah.
And then that can have real consequences should you ever separate from your partner, because it would probably be the woman that kind of gets custody of the friends, so to speak.
Yeah.
So the man loses friends in that context.
Which is fair enough, because it's also often the women that, is like making the plans.
Have done all the work, have been the organisers and the connectors.
So it's a bit like
all of that. Yeah.
Make some friends.
The other main place that men tend to form friendships is at work. And this might be where they have things in common with people that they're working with. But if they leave or they lose that job altogether, like in a layoff or a redundancy, they lose those friendships. Those two things combined explain a lot of the loneliness crisis we're in at the moment, because these bonds are being broken. What about amongst young people, Lily? What do you think might be the causes of loneliness there?
Well, obviously, like you mentioned earlier on, the pandemic didn't help anyone out. And I hear a lot of people talking about the male loneliness epidemic, which is like, it's definitely a thing. But I feel like I'm sure I've seen stats somewhere saying women, like young women and older women, are kind of like equally as lonely. It seems like everyone is going through a bit of a horrible time. I feel like there's a bit of a lack of community. Back in the day, if you like lived alone, I feel like you'd have a relationship at least with your neighbours. Or when the postman would come to visit you, like you would get a bit of chat. People are a bit kind of shut off from each other. We also have lost so many like shared community spaces, like things like libraries, youth clubs, sports clubs.
It's a shared interest.
Exactly. So I feel like the fact that there's just not as much of a sense of community kind of anywhere as there used to be. I think as well the cost of living crisis is causing a lot of young people to reduce their social lives and feel more isolated, where it used to be pretty affordable to like go out to the pub and get chatting to people. Like pints are crazy expensive now. Like you have to pay for tickets to get into like nightclubs. The nightlife scene's one thing, but even just like day-to-day kind of social activities, everything's extortionate. So I feel like that's definitely exacerbated the issue there as well. There was actually a recent Oxfam poll that found that nearly half of Gen Z respondents feel lonely, but also noted that a lot of them are now turning to volunteering to find community, which I think is quite nice, and quite a nice way to combat that, because obviously it's free. You're helping out, like whether you're in a charity shop or I don't know, marshalling like your local park run or something. That's a really good way to.
Yeah, we were involved in park run for a long time. It's a fantastic organisation, and anyone can kind of go along and volunteer. So if that's something you're interested in, you get to meet people with that shared interest and a great sense of community, and all sorts of other voluntary groups. And there's some really good stuff that crosses generations, you know, so you can do things with maybe older people.
I used to love when I did volunteering at the hospital with the older people. That was so good, and they have such good stories.
Yeah, it was a dementia unit that you worked in, wasn't it?
Yeah, but a lot of them could remember a lot about their like youth. So I was hearing all kinds of crazy stuff about wars and like past flings they had, who even when they're sat there 80 years old, they're like, oh, I wish I'd married Martha. You got a lot of tea.
Yeah, absolutely. And biscuits as well, probably.
No, as in like, no, Dad, oh my God, you're so old. As in like, you know, if someone's like tea, like gossip or something.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I did get tea and biscuits. You just don't know any Gen Z slang.
So obviously, in our modern world, there are solutions to this problem, which are mainly technology based. So one is AI friends, which we'll come on to talk about.
Oh my God, yeah.
The other is things like rentafriend.com.
Oh my goodness.
So you can go online and rent a friend. Sounds a bit dodgy, right? But there's nothing sexual in it. It is companionship. So say you were a single person, maybe you were traveling, you were new in a city, and you wanted to visit a museum and go with someone. You can go on to Rent a Friend, find someone who has a similar.
That's actually quite wholesome.
Well, you have to pay them money.
Oh.
So there are people there. So this is how they are earning their living, by being companions for people who otherwise wouldn't have people to hang out with.
No.
And it could just be go for a coffee or a meal, go to a museum or an exhibition of something. But, you know, that service now exists.
You have Bumble BFF as well, which is like dating app for friends, essentially.
Right, same kind of thing.
There's a few different apps like that, but that's free.
Yeah, except obviously probably not so transactional. Yeah. But there's a good way of like finding new friends if you've just moved somewhere and are maybe just trying to establish yourself. And then now we've got a sort of AI coming into the scene. So you can have conversations with chatbots, which some people will say are more realistic or more beneficial for them than conversations with real people.
Well, yeah, have you seen the Reddit thread, My Boyfriend is AI? It's actually sad.
Hmm.
People kind of take the piss out of it, but actually what it's revealing is that there's lots of lonely people out there who are becoming romantically involved with their computers because
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? So as much as I see all the memes and things, and I think at first I was like, oh my God, like that's crazy. You have a bit of a giggle, but actually the further you go into it, it's a bit like AI can't replace human connections. Well,
Mm.
not according to me, but like for the people on that Reddit thread, I think they would say otherwise. But
Yeah, well, there was a YouGov poll that found that awareness of AI companions is highest amongst younger
mhm,
British people, but the majority of every age group still feel a bit uncomfortable with it.
yeah,
But then there was another report that found a growing number of children are turning to chatbots for emotional support.
no,
And there are a
awful,
quarter of vulnerable children saying they use them because they have no one else to talk to,
no,
which is sad,
that's really
but they
sad.
still have that emotional connection. I think the consequences of not having a real person might
Mhm.
manifest themselves further down the line, but at least they are getting that emotional outlet
Yeah.
and a thing that can kind of empathize with them. So it'd be interesting to see where that goes.
It would be better to have like an in real life support system, but I guess it's almost like you're journaling and getting a response back from your
Mm-hmm.
journal or something. But crazy.
So let's talk about a friendship ending. So friendship breakups. For your age group, is it all or nothing kind of cancel culture? I get the sense that we've maybe somewhat lost the ability to repair a relationship. You know, if you have a fallout with someone, is that it?
I'm not sure. Not in my experience. Like one thing I forgot to mention about my best friend Jade at the start when we were talking about our best pals is me and Jade fell out for nearly 4 years for basically no reason over something ridiculous, and then we were both just being incredibly stubborn about making up. But eventually we did make up, and I'm really, really glad we did, obviously. But I
Hmm.
think sometimes you need a bit of space, you need a bit of time to cool off. I wouldn't say it's like all or nothing, like you did one thing that pissed me off and I'm gonna chuck you now. Obviously depends on the people and depends on the severity of the crime. But I think for most kind of friendship breakups nowadays, for girls my age, the thing that I've most commonly seen is falling out over boys, which is kind of always been a thing, I think. And then also like just stuff fizzling out, losing touch with people, eventually stopping making plans, and then maybe you still have each other on Instagram, you
Hmm.
maybe like each other's posts, but you don't really bother to connect again. But yeah, I think you definitely can get big blown up falling outs that lead to people not speaking again, but it would depend what you did.
You can, but I agree. I also think that it's often down to friendships just fizzling out. It's
Yeah,
not necessarily the massive dramatic rupture, but just that sort of quiet, gradual withdrawal. And then you feel a bit awkward about
yeah,
trying to catch up and reconnect with the person. And it just goes,
yeah,
unfortunately. Yeah. So, what about some ideas for how to get better at making friends and keeping
yeah.
friends if you think you want to kind of re energize your friendship circle?
I would say there's a lot out there about like going out, putting yourself out there and saying hi to people and all this kind of thing, which obviously is like how you get your foot in the door. But I think there needs to be a little bit more of an emphasis on it's not always about talking to people, and sometimes kind of what you were saying earlier on about to make a friend be a friend, like also that
Hmm.
involves a lot of the time just being a good listener. So if you're the person that shows new people around at work or like does an act of kindness for someone, things like that, and also like taking an interest in people, like genuinely asking them questions and letting them ask something open ended and just let them kind of yap away and show that you're listening and you actually
Yeah.
kind of care to ask. I think the main thing that I don't see sometimes with people, like it's nice to make people feel included.
Hmm.
And if you see someone sat alone at a table, if you're like at an event or something, I think being the person that wants to make people feel included and trying to involve everyone in the jokes and things, I feel like that's just a really nice trait to have. Generally, it shows your friends that you're a nice friend. It shows that person that they made the right decision coming out. Because what if that person like came to an event hoping to make friends and no one spoke to them? I feel like that would just plunge them further into the isolation. So always make people feel included
Yeah,
as much as you can.
absolutely. So it sounds like you might be a connector, Lily. So you are making
Yeah.
those connections, expanding the group.
So I feel like I probably am a connector. which is nice.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's about any situation where someone might be a little vulnerable, like if it's at an event, or if someone moves into your street or moves into your block, to just kind of knock on the door and say hello and introduce yourself and see if there's anything they need help with. That kind of gets the relationship off on a good foot, and that can then be something that a friendship forms from.
Yeah.
Wherever you've got something in common, if it's similar interests, there's something to talk about.
Yeah.
Although even if it's someone that has different interests, if you can be curious, and you don't have to do a lot of the talking, just ask a couple of questions and get the person to talk about their thing.
Yeah, why do you like this hobby?
And see where that goes.
Maybe you'll even get a new hobby out of it as well. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah. You might expand, your horizons, expand your interests. I think if you are naturally good at organizing, then that can help to bring people together. I think if you are looking at volunteering, community groups, all of those kind of things, to volunteer for a role where you get to meet new people, which tend to be to do with membership and events, you're automatically going to be in situations on behalf of the group where your job is to meet new people, talk to them. So that can be good. And also, I think being consistent, even in the activities that you do on your own. So if there's a coffee shop you go to every morning, if you're in there about the same time, you'll probably get to know the staff because they kind of work regular shift patterns. You might get to know some other customers who are in there at the same time. Whenever you go to the gym, if you're going to the gym on a regular basis, same time, you'll see the same kind of people because most people have a routine.
I'm going to go to the pub every night this week at the same time and make friends with all the regulars. That's another method.
There you go. That could be a good environment to make friends in. I would say one thing for men in terms of forming stronger friendships is to be just 10% more vulnerable. If you talk just a little bit about like how you're feeling, I had a tough day at work, or I'm kind of dealing with this issue, have you got any ideas, to just open up a little bit, that really helps form a much stronger friendship than just talking about like the sport or the news or the weather or whatever,
And if you go 10%, they might go 15% the next time, and then you might go 20. Like that's how you build that trust and the comfortable, safe space with each other.
Yeah, indeed. I think if you go into these situations with a positive mindset, thinking most people are friendly, and be curious, and you just see where those conversations go. What would you say is one thing that you've taken from this, Lil?
I really liked the bit where we were talking about women's activities being face-to-face generally and men's generally being side-to-side, because it's not something I thought about before, but it made me realise actually maybe men should be doing more face-to-face yapping over a carrot cake and a cappuccino. And maybe I should get the football on and sit on the couch with my girls, and we'll all have really, really strong, good friendships with all of that, like, variance. I like that bit.
I think for me, it was the different roles in a friendship group and the realization that most of them aren't covered in a typical group of male friends. And actually there needs to be a connector. Maybe there needs to be a therapist. There needs to be a listener, because we are generally all trying to be jokers, and that can be very superficial, but actually need to connect on a different level.
Well, there's a reason why people say like that was a dad joke. The demographic of these wannabe jokers. There you go.
Yeah. And one of the other things I would say, Lily, is I get a tremendous amount of comfort knowing that you and Charlie have such good friends around about you. Because obviously you moved out a few years ago, so you're not here for us to look after you all the time, and you shouldn't be because you're an adult now. But we know you have a great group of friends.
Yes.
You've got those 2 a.m. friends you can call if you needed to, and they would help you out. And that's really reassuring as a parent. And hopefully you can see that we're not at a loss for things to do since you and Charlie moved out. We've got some good friends that we enjoy hanging out with too.
Yeah, no, I've heard about all of the dinners and, boozy dinners and cocktail nights you guys have been having. So I imagine that you are booked and busy. Don't worry. I'm not worried about your guys' social lives.
So there we go. The end of episode 10. We are into double figures now.
Woo.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this episode, then please give us a 5-star rating and a review. That always helps new listeners to discover the show. And if you have any thoughts or feedback for future topics, drop us a line on LinkedIn. Links are in the show notes, or send us a message on SpeakPipe, and you might hear yourself on the show in a future episode.
Woo. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Gen XE Exchange.